Imagine loving something more than anyone else in the world, only to become the reason for its suffering. A gentle man, a faithful black cat. A single terrible choice. A house consumed by fire. A second cat that refuses to leave. A murder hidden behind a wall, and one horrifying sound that reveals the truth. This is Edgar Allan Poe's The Black Cat.
Tomorrow I shall die. Tonight I have only one wish, to unburden my soul. What I am about to tell you may seem too strange to believe. Some will call it madness. But I am not mad. These events truly happened, and they destroyed everything I once was. From my earliest childhood, I was known for the gentleness of my nature. While other children sought excitement in games, I found my greatest happiness in the company of animals. Their loyalty was simple, their affection honest, and their silence more comforting than the company of most people. As I grew older and eventually married, our home became a sanctuary filled with living creatures. Birds, rabbits, fish, a faithful dog, playful monkeys, and among them all, there was one companion I loved more than any other. His name was Pluto. He was a large, magnificent black cat, remarkable not only for his beauty, but for his extraordinary intelligence. Wherever I went, Pluto followed close behind. He greeted me at the door when I returned home, curled beside me as I read, and rested quietly near my chair as though he understood every passing thought. Of all the creatures that shared our home, none knew me better, and none earned my affection more completely. My wife often smiled at an old superstition she had heard since childhood, that every black cat was, in truth, a witch disguised in fur. She never truly believed it. It was merely an old tale, repeated with laughter whenever Pluto wandered through the house. At the time, I dismissed it without a second thought. Little did I know how often those words would return to haunt me. For several years, our lives passed in quiet happiness. But time has a way of changing even the gentlest hearts. Slowly, almost without my noticing, I surrendered myself to drink. At first, it seemed harmless. Yet with every passing day, my patience grew shorter, my temper darker, and the kindness that had once defined me began to disappear. Those I loved were the first to notice the change. Drink slowly took command of my life. Day by day, I became impatient, irritable, and indifferent to the feelings of those around me. My wife endured my harsh words in silence, though she could not hide her sorrow. Even the animals that had once brought me comfort began to avoid my presence. One by one, I neglected them, or treated them with a cruelty that would once have horrified me. Yet there was one creature who never abandoned me. Pluto remained as faithful as ever. Even as my temper darkened, he continued to follow me through the house, waiting quietly beside my chair as he always had. His loyalty should have reminded me of the man I once was. Instead, it became a mirror I could no longer bear to face. One evening, I returned home more intoxicated than ever before. Pluto, sensing my condition, tried to avoid me. In my drunken anger, I reached out to seize him. Startled and terrified, he instinctively bit my hand. It was only a small wound, but in that single instant, reason abandoned me completely. A fury unlike anything I had ever known consumed me. It was as though every trace of compassion had vanished from my soul. In a moment that I would regret for the rest of my life, I committed an act of unspeakable cruelty against the creature that had loved me most. From that night onward, whenever Pluto looked at me, I saw not fear alone, but the man I had become. There is something within the human heart that defies all reason. We sometimes destroy what we cherish, not because we hate it, but because some dark impulse whispers that we can. I knew Pluto had done nothing to deserve my cruelty. I knew he still trusted me. Yet that very innocence became unbearable. And so I chose the one act I knew was unforgivable. The next morning, my anger had vanished. In its place remained only shame. I tried to convince myself that what had happened was behind me, yet every quiet room reminded me of Pluto. His absence echoed through the house more loudly than his footsteps ever had. Still, instead of facing my guilt, I reached once again for the bottle. That very night, disaster came without warning. I awoke to frantic cries. Smoke filled every room. Flames raced through the house faster than anyone could escape. My wife, our servant, and I barely reached the street alive. By sunrise, everything we owned had been reduced to ashes. By morning, only a single wall remained standing. Curious neighbors gathered around it in silence. Drawn upon the scorched plaster was the unmistakable outline of a gigantic cat. Around its neck appeared the shape of a rope. I searched desperately for a rational explanation. Yet no explanation could quiet the unease growing inside me. I told myself there had to be a reasonable answer. Someone could have cut Pluto's body from the tree and thrown it through my bedroom window during the fire. The pressure of the collapsing walls, combined with fresh plaster, might have left the strange impression upon the wall. It was a convincing explanation, yet somehow it never truly satisfied me. The days that followed brought me no peace. Though I never spoke his name, I found myself searching for Pluto wherever I went. Every dark corner, every quiet hallway, every empty chair beside the fire reminded me of the companion I had lost. Guilt lingered like a shadow that refused to leave. Several months passed. Though I tried to bury my memories beneath drink, the emptiness never left me. One miserable evening, while sitting alone in a crowded tavern, my eyes fell upon something unexpected. Resting quietly upon a large cask of spirits was a black cat. It was nearly identical to Pluto, yet there was one curious difference. A large patch of white fur covered its chest. As I reached out to stroke the animal, it answered with quiet affection. I asked the tavern keeper who owned the cat. He simply shrugged. He had never seen it before. When I rose to leave, the strange creature followed me into the night, as though it had already chosen me. At first, I welcomed the animal. Its gentle nature reminded me of Pluto. Yet as the days passed, I found myself studying the white patch upon its chest. It seemed impossible, but little by little, the shape appeared to change before my very eyes. The more I looked, the less I could deny what I believed I was seeing. The white marking, once little more than an irregular stain, now seemed to resemble a gallows. Day after day, the image became clearer. Whether the change belonged to the cat or to my own guilty mind, I could no longer tell. Soon, the cat followed me everywhere. Every room, every staircase, every silent moment seemed to end with those patient amber eyes watching me. It never threatened me, it never harmed me. Yet its quiet presence became unbearable, because it reminded me of everything I wished to forget. My disgust soon grew into hatred. The animal had become a constant burden. Wherever I turned, it seemed to appear beside me. At times, it brushed against my legs. At others, it perched silently upon the furniture, watching me with patient eyes. It sought only my company, yet that unwavering affection became unbearable. I longed to be free of it, but lacked the courage to harm it. One day, my wife and I descended into the cellar of our new home. The cat followed us down the narrow stone steps. As it passed beneath my feet, I stumbled. A sudden fury overwhelmed me. In that instant, every ounce of resentment I had buried rose violently to the surface. Blinded by rage, I seized an axe. My only thought was to strike the cat. Before the blow could fall, my wife stepped between us. She raised her hands, not in anger, but to stop me from committing another unforgivable act. In that terrible moment, my fury turned upon her. When reason finally returned, the cellar had fallen silent. My wife lay motionless upon the cold stone floor. I stood frozen, unable to comprehend what I had done. Terror slowly replaced rage. I knew that if I wished to escape the gallows, I would have to conceal the crime. I searched desperately for a place where no one would ever think to look. Then my eyes fell upon an old brick wall in the cellar. With surprising ease, I removed several loose stones, placed my wife's body within the hollow space, and rebuilt the wall exactly as it had been before. When my work was finished, not even the closest inspection could reveal what lay hidden behind it. Days passed, no suspicion fell upon me. The cat, too, had disappeared. For the first time in months, I slept peacefully. I congratulated myself on the perfection of my work. My secret, I believed, would remain buried forever. On the fourth day, the police arrived. They searched every room with great care, the attic, the bedrooms, the cellar. I remained calm. The wall stood exactly as I had rebuilt it, convinced that nothing could betray me. I welcomed their inspection. At last, the officers prepared to leave. Overcome by foolish pride, I struck the very wall that concealed my crime. I boasted of the strength of its construction. Before my words had faded, a sound answered from within. It began as a low, broken cry, then rose into a long, terrible wail. The officers froze, they tore down the wall, and there stood the black cat.
Was the second cat truly supernatural? Did fate itself return to punish the narrator? Or was every terrifying event born from a mind consumed by guilt? Edgar Allan Poe never gives us a final answer. Perhaps that is what makes the black cat so unsettling. The true horror is not the animal, nor the fire, nor even the hidden walls. It is the realization that the narrator destroyed everything he loved, not because he had to, but because he surrendered to the darkest part of himself. Sometimes, the most terrifying monster isn't hiding in the shadows. It's the one we carry within. If you enjoy timeless literature brought to life through immersive storytelling, consider subscribing. There are many more stories waiting to be explored.